All right, I want to check in briefly with you guys about the comedy of errors that are Donald Trump's sworn affidavits, some of which are arguing in Michigan that the results in Minnesota towns prove Michigan voter fraud. Now, if you just heard me say that and you're confused, you should be confused. It makes no sense, and I'm going to explain it to you. Let's back it up a little bit. For weeks now, Trump and people around him, including his lawyers, continue to refer to supposedly sworn affidavits signed under penalty of perjury from all sorts of different people that prove that there was voter fraud. Now, I've already talked to you before about affidavits as evidence. Affidavits are a form of evidence. It could be trustworthy, it might not. Affidavits might be credible or they might not. Affidavits might be admissible or they might not. They're not proof of anything per se. But when you actually start looking at some of these affidavits, it becomes cartoonishly farcical. Here is one such example. This is just one. Now, they claim to have, I don't know if it's thousands or tens of thousands of these sworn affidavits of people reporting wrongdoing and mathematical anomalies or anomalies, as your preference may be for pronunciation. But let's just look at one, okay? There's an affidavit from a guy named Russell Ramsland, who is a supposed expert on cybersecurity. In his affidavit, Russell attacks Dominion software, which is used on some voting machines. And it claims that there is very suspicious activity in some towns that are in Wayne County, Michigan. And in their list of towns in Wayne County, Michigan, they list places like Spruce Grove Township and Atlanta Township and Runeberg Township. All of those places are not even in Michigan. As Jake Tapper from CNN pointed out on Twitter, Spruce Grove Township is in Minnesota. Atlanta Township is in Minnesota. Runeberg Township is in Minnesota. Now, one argument was this was supposed to be evidence from Wayne County, Minnesota, not Wayne County, Michigan. So everything's accurate. It's just they put MI instead of MN. And that's why all of the towns that are listed are actually in Minnesota instead of in Michigan. That doesn't pass the sniff test because there is no Wayne County in Minnesota. So what we have here is, if we want to be as charitable as possible, we have incompetence. If we want to maybe think of a less charitable interpretation, these are straight up fraudulent affidavits. The idea that they submitted these knowing that these are not even actually places in Michigan, and they were hoping to deceive courts and hoping to move some of these bogus lawsuits forward. We don't know. We may never know. It's increasingly irrelevant. This evidence, supposedly from Michigan, was submitted as part of a filing in Georgia. The Georgia results are moving forward, and it was supposedly data from Michigan. Michigan has also now been certified and put officially in Joe Biden's column. So it is all failing, but this is why, we really have to go beyond. There's this idea of just throwing large amounts of stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I've talked about this before. In debate, it's something called the Gish Gallop. You throw a bunch of stuff out there and just make it appear overwhelming and make it difficult for whoever you're trying to convince to really go step by step and refute this. The equivalent of the Gish Gallop is just getting thousands or tens of thousands of signed affidavits and, holding them up as stacks of paper, as Trump cronies have done on television, including his press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany. But what you really need to do is not say, wow, if there are 10,000 of these things or 100,000 or 5,000, whatever, there must be something to it. You just have to dive in and start looking at it and saying, okay, let's look at this one affidavit. And then you look at it and you say, this really is nothing. This is really hearsay. It doesn't really tell us anything about there being fraud. It's an allegation, in many cases, an allegation which, even if true, would not impact the results of this state. And you put that aside. And then you look at the next one. And then you look at this one, and it lists towns supposedly in Michigan that are actually in Minnesota. And then you start eliminating it. And what do you have left? You have left the realization that Joe Biden won because he got more votes in enough states. That's really it. And rest assured, we're not going to have to hear that much more about affidavits for too much longer.